This podcast was brought to you by the good people at Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial right now at audibletrial.com/nothingbutstatic. Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week we'll be speaking about Lion 4 alternate ending. Nearly screwed up the title there, Chris.
I thought you recovered very smoothly, though.
Yeah, you could still hear it though. There was that pause.
Oh yeah.
But
I think
if to steal.
You could have moved. I think you've made it worse.
Yeah.
Because even by saying Chris, because I'm like, I've got to respond to it. If you'd have just got, messed up the title, I wouldn't have responded. But you're like, I messed up the title, didn't I, Chris? Let's make this a thing.
Yeah, you're right. I invited you into, so not only did I sort of to borrow a term from motorsport racing, sort of lock up the tires so that the car skidded a little before it went into the corner. Instead of just carrying on and, sort of letting that tiny mistake be its own thing. Everyone knows it happened, but it's not a big deal. We're moving on. Instead, I then stopped the car and went back and looked at the road that I'd driven on, like looking for the pothole. What happened?
And it's a shame because people are like, oh, sweet, it's a Monday. It's a bomb. We get a Monday episode, and
I've already
so
fucked
far it's been shit.
Yeah, you're right. Shit on all fronts. Wow, this is deep.
So.
What was it about?
So Stephen is pausing and rewinding and trying to dig out a secret code in his video from his mum, and he's saying there must be a reason. I must have a purpose. I must be for something, and he's getting no joy. So he asks Lion for some help. Lion gives him a key. He tries to get the key into a chest in Lion's mane, and then he tries to get the key into various things kind of about, including he goes into Rose's room and stuff like that. Eventually, he just kind of says to Lion, look, help me. So they go back to where they first got Lion, isn't it?
Yes.
And
it's also where Buddy ran. Well, it seems to be based on the backgrounds where Buddy sort of was traveling when he sort of passed out and then met Rose with a bunch of
real lions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they get to this door, and amusingly, doesn't need the key at all because the building is in ruins and he could have just walked around it. He finds another video. I thought that was quite beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of those things that the first time I watched it, and that joke landed and I laughed, and the second time I watched it, just then sort of washed over me a little bit. But you bringing it up in that phrasing just made me have a little chuckle about it. It's quite funny
because it means essentially Lion's taking the piss. And so he gets a video for Norma.
Nora.
And he's like, Nora.
I don't know.
It's like, who's Nora?
Norma.
What's going on? Have I got a sister? And Lion takes him to Greg. Him and Greg watch the video, and basically it's exactly the same as Steven's video. Turns out they've made like two versions. One for if they have a boy, one for if they have a girl. And then Stephen kind of gets upset, and Greg says, well, listen to the video, you're our child. And he's like, so all I was meant to be was your child? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I can do that. And then they have a hug, and it's a special moment. I don't know, really. I don't know what I think of this one, Dan, if I'm honest. Kind of comes out of nowhere, I felt like. They've kind of been building... I thought they'd been building this kind of Stephen questioning his purpose, what's he for, getting stressed about everything, breaking down. I feel like they've been building that, but this feels like they've skipped over some steps. Like, it literally... I'll be honest with you, I rewound it back to check it was, because I was like, no, I'm sure that said Lion 4, but the way it starts and he's thumbing through the video, I felt like I'd missed something. I was like, oh, this is okay. Why he's doing this? Okay, cool. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is them building to Stephen's for something, and this bomb is about what Stephen's for. Okay, cool. It feels very much like the first part in a story, but it is the first part in a story, so maybe that's okay. And then it gets concluded seemingly, and he concludes he's just Greg's son. Okay, cool. That's a nice conclusion, but because the beginning, it was odd to me because one, it's not where I thought it was going, and then two, it's the conclusion to something that even if just the last episode had ended with something like that, maybe, I don't know. It just felt very, this is the start of a story, and then concluded that story, seemingly. So I'm very conflicted about it. I just kind of finished it going, oh, okay, because I think this is the first instant where we've had a mythology-based episode that doesn't tell us that much mythology, but then it wasn't, I don't, on the surface, especially with the title like Lion 4 Alternative Ending, and the fact that, Stephen, if you give me that premise, Lion gives Stephen a key for something, I'd be like, ho, 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 ho. You're still there, yeah? I'm talking it cool. I'm talking for a long time, and I'm like, has he gone? I couldn't even hear. I couldn't hear you breathing. You must be that intensely listening.
I was
so
listening,
on the surface, this is a mythology episode,
uh-huh.
which means it shouldn't necessarily be hilarious. Shouldn't be a character piece, and it's kind of a character piece. Shouldn't involve the town people. So if I'm going right, this is mythology. I kind of feel like I didn't get too much mythology. I saw the Nora thing coming.
Mm-hmm. As did I.
I can maybe if you.
I don't think I bought for a second that it was his sister.
No, I didn't buy it. I literally was like, oh, okay, well, maybe he's got maybe this is like an alternative tape.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine.
I think the intention was for the writer to make you think. When she's like, half of me will be you, you're supposed to go, oh, so the other half of her is someone else. Like, that's what they want you to think.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't do it like that, unfortunately.
That's what they want you to think. It doesn't work.
It wasn't.
I didn't fall for it either.
Yeah, so if I'm looking at this going, oh, mythology, and I don't get mythology, that's fine if it's hilarious, or that's fine if we get this kind of some huge character stuff, or we deal with another character or something. But with this, I kind of went, oh, mythology. Oh no, it's not really mythology, and it's concluding something that I'm not 100% sure they finished building. That's my rambly thoughts.
Yeah. I sort of agree with you. My first thought when watching this episode is this is a really weird one because historically this show has done this thing where it's a it's a character piece and then it'll veer off suddenly or surprisingly into mythology, and that's cool because it catches you off and you're not expecting a big reveal but you get one. The show has done that before. It's never done it in reverse, where it's a mythology episode, and then gone, gotcha, it's actually a character piece. And I think that's maybe but that in itself is not problematic at all. That's actually kind of cool and nice and surprising. I think the reason it flounders, or the reason that feels problematic here, is because it's the first episode of a bomb, so you have expectations going into a bomb, fairly or unfairly.
Yeah.
They, especially after the last bomb, you go into this with expectations of big things. So this episode sort of shoots itself in the foot by its positioning. And if I'm honest, if someone told me this wasn't originally designed to be a bomb, this episode specifically, I think the rest of this bomb is very clearly, a linked
but isn't
story.
This the end of the series?
We're building to the end of the series, yeah.
Yeah, so it could to me just be building to the end of the series. I think Cartoon Network have gone bomb instead of the creators.
Yeah, very possibly. I think that would, in fact, I would argue that is very likely. Although I kind of suspect that Wanted, which is the sort of arc we're going to get to straight after this, 4 episodes after this that cover the story of Wanted, and that I think is more likely to have been the original intended ending, personally.
Okay. Because you could make an argument that if you watched all the Lion episodes together, that probably works, and that would make sense because that would end. Wouldn't that end with him getting the video, and then this begins with him analyzing the video?
Yeah, 100%.
So you could literally watch the Lion quadrilogy as one, and that would work. But do you think it's fair, or do you think they did do enough to build this notion of Stephen wondering what he's for?
Well, it's because no, but I also don't feel like they've closed it either. I know that. No. So that's that. See, correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris, but a portion of your frustration or a portion of your disappointment is that you didn't feel they built it to where it could have gone, and now it feels like they've closed it off. Whereas
no, it feels like they closed it off instead of making it the story of the bomb. But it feels like even watching it, I'm going, but I don't think this is done. And so therefore,
right,
it feels quite. They've either got to have something. If something happens and Stephen reverts back to that, fine. But if the next episode, or in 10 episodes time, it's just, oh no, what's my purpose? It's like they structurally and narratively end the story in a place suggesting it's concluded, even though I don't think it is.
Right.
That is narratively what they've done.
Yeah.
So I just have to be your kid. Yeah. Is that okay? Wells up. I think I can manage that. Big hug. Cool.
But in a weird way, I think it depends how you view the story as well, because it's about their expectations of him versus his expectations of himself. What he learns in this episode is that he's putting that pressure on himself, not that the gems and his dad are. He is the one who talks about having a magical gem destiny where he's, destined to do big things and all that because of the pressure of being Rose Quartz's son, essentially. But what I like about this episode, and I suppose what he learns, is the rest of my family don't see it that way. All I need to be is myself for them. I don't need to
that's
fill...
a better interpretation.
I don't need to fill Rose Quartz's shoes. They don't need that from me. And it is beautiful, and it leaves it open for him to still feel like he's destined for more, or still feel like he can do more, because in a weird way he's a bit inherited her responsibility. Because yes, all right, maybe she hasn't laid out some magic plan for that you need to follow to save the world. Rose Quartz isn't Dumbledore. She's not set things out in a way that means that Stephen's going to go out there and and save the world. It seems very much, at least from this positioning where we're up to now, that Rose's only plan was to just live as a human and just to save Earth, which clearly the Earth is currently it survived the rebellion, and live on it as a person, and that was the thing she wanted out of life, and she sort of got that. So she sort of fulfilled her destiny, but what that sort of tells me is Stephen's put all this stuff on himself, and what he's learning...
because he literally says she's leaving me puzzle pieces.
Yeah,
and you could kind of argue that's mainly in his head.
Yeah, 100% it is, because look, he's searching for clues in the text. He's going to bitty Asia or something like that. I can't remember how it works, but he's doing the anagrams at the beginning. And it's obviously just nonsense and there's nothing there. And then he gets a key and immediately he's like, this is going to mean something really huge and important. And it doesn't mean anything. It's a key to a building where she had some storage. And in it was nothing of particular relevance, except for a sword that's modelled after Samurai Jack's sword. Bit a little early triv for you there, Chris. Sprinkling in some early triv. Yeah, Samurai Jack's sword is the sword that breaks in half.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. It depending on that notion, for me, doesn't quite work, because that notion of it's in his head, he's obsessed over this. I'm kind of like, one day, like maybe we'll do it when we're on a hiatus and down to one a week. Like, I'd love to watch all the Lion ones in a row, because they literally could have put this episode immediately after the last Lion episode.
Yeah, they
could
could
have made a difference. Huh? Oh, he goes into the room? Or...
Yeah, they could have. They could have. 100%.
Oh, they could have. Oh,
yeah. There's nothing. There's nothing to stop them from doing that. I will say, if it turned out that this episode was misplaced, not misplaced, but like was just
kept back,
was not supposed to be part of a bomb or any sort of arc or whatever, then that would not surprise me. In fact, truthfully, I honestly feel like the wanted arc would have potentially been the bomb to finish off the series, with the last episode of the actual bomb as the first part.
Well, because
does that make sense? No. Yeah.
Well, no, I've not seen it yet. But the thing of it depending on Steven's all that stuff being in his head, what are we meant to think? That he's either been slowly obsessing on this video in private, or he got the video, went on loads of other adventures, went to fucking space, and then kind of got back to the video and was like, no, I'm you know what, this is still bugging me. And there will be some people that say, yeah, but with the space stuff, he, is questioning actions, and he's feeling their pain, so he's, feeling the pain of what his mum's accused of doing, and all of that's building into making him think that he's for something. But I don't think they've done enough of that. I don't feel they've embedded that in enough.
No, but
it just makes me
I
confused.
suppose the idea that as I laid it out, would mean that it is still very much not solved. Yes, okay, now he understands that the gems and his dad don't expect that of him, but that's not changed that he still expects that of himself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
To sort of... and again, I do see where you're coming from here. I don't necessarily disagree with you. This isn't me counterpointing you. This is me simply trying to frame it a different way so it doesn't seem quite so problematic. And I think that is one way to look at it, which is that, yeah, okay, he solved... He now sort of understands that the others aren't putting that on him, but now he's still yet to deal with the fact that he's putting that on himself.
Yeah.
He's got mummy issues, Chris. That's all it is. He's got mum issues.
Well, don't we all? But
if my mum was an alien rock lady with magic powers that I inherited.
Yeah, I think I'd have some questions.
Yeah, and I also inherited a weird pink lion that sometimes coughs up keys to things.
Hey, let's talk about that. Let's talk about Lion being a bit of a dick. So he gives him this key, despite knowing that what he needs it for is incredibly far away. He then treks there instead of just evaporizing them there. Maybe he didn't know the building was in ruins, but actually the key was pointless anyway. Like, when he said, just show me, instead of giving him a key, he could have just taken him to that room.
Yeah. Theoretically. Unless there's something else going on we don't understand yet.
Maybe.
It's hard to say, isn't it? Lion's motives have always been a bit mysterious, and I feel like with the stuff we've had, where Lion has clearly responded directly to Steven's questions in the past. Lion knows and exists for and has some sort of meaning behind his or her actions, I guess. That's a good question. Do we know Lion's a he? Is Lion a he?
Don't know.
Yeah, they've never really specified, have they? Oh. Lion is gender neutral. Well, yeah, so we don't know what Lion's motives are, if any, or is it just bizarre, random stuff? For all we know, Lion was simply in that desert, found that key, ate it, got stuck in his throat like a hairball. Hours later, coughs it up. Steven's going, meh, 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 and Lion doesn't understand a word of it, and is just like, I don't know, I'll take you here, and just like, you know what I mean? Like, for all we know, Lion is, but I don't think it is that, but I'm saying that's, for all we know, it is the random actions of a pet. I do think that the key is a sheer coincidence. Like, I think that is just something Lion had eaten and coughed up. Because I think that pushes the idea which I prefer out of this story, which is that Steven's looking for clues and answers in things that they're just not there. but I do also still genuinely believe that Lion's behavior is not completely random always. I think that one is, but I think some of his choices are very specific.
Do we visit that location again in flashback form, or indeed present day form?
I am saying nothing.
Because it looked like it was like the ruins of like a pretty grand building.
Yeah. I think that would be a fair assertion, Chris. I would say that looking at it, I've got the screen grab up in front of me because reasons. And yeah, it does look like it could have been something pretty epic.
I feel like you're trying to avoid the question, Dan.
No.
Is the building named at a later date?
No. But if we're on the subject of the building, did you notice anything else about the building?
The big like tower things outside, like it was very gemmy, and it was very like visually very pink. So I did sort of think, has this got anything to do with Pink Diamond or anything like that? But other than that, I didn't notice anything. Should I have?
There's a popular fan theory about the outside of the building.
The bits that looked very pink and...
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go into it because if you didn't spot it, I'm not going to say it just in case it does turn out to be something more going forward.
Okay.
But yeah, certainly it's certainly the building has a very intentional feeling design. That's for sure.
Yeah, there was a very, like I said, it was a very Pink Diamond vibe.
And
I don't know. But I think just because of like when we have the scale of what was outside was seemingly quite big, and usually when we see scale like that, you've got the scale of like blue and yellow being so big, and it was a chunky ass key and stuff. I think that's why I associated it with the diamonds. It was an awful lot of pink. That's all. So I'm not saying it was like fucking Pink Diamond's house and Rose left her shit there or something. But it just more than any other locations for me when I got that visual of shitloads of pink.
Sort of like sort of those, it's particularly those sort of pink mounds outside, sort of towers.
Yes, the pink mounds in particular. Yeah, I was just like, oh, that's is this something to do with Pink Diamond or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, certainly. Like I said, the reason I'm so skittish about this is because, and I'll tell you this now, because obviously we're not far away from being caught up, so it wouldn't be a huge spoiler for me to say whatever this isn't 100% been cleared up yet. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
If that, to give you a bit of a hint. But I will say that when this episode aired, there were some fan theories that developed off it about the that particular design element you've noticed.
Will people be writing shit in the comments?
Possibly. But it's one of those things where I've got to be super careful because also because if fan theory turns out to become accurate, then it, you know what I mean? Like it's tricky because had we been doing this prior to Jailbreak, I'd have been like, oh well, there's loads of theories that that Garnet's a fusion, and that would have led you down a certain path and could have helped us put it together. Could have helped you put it together sooner. So I'm not even going to. I'm going to avoid even fan theories telling you stuff because.
Yeah, this must be the most difficult stage for you.
Because we're so close, but not close enough for me to be able to tell you everything that people have been thinking. And I think it'll be fun when we get to that point when we're caught up. So we can discuss those theories and whether there's some sort of accuracy.
It'll be fun for 5 weeks until we start running out of shit to say on a weekly basis.
I don't know. I'm sure we'll find stuff to do. But I mean,
we've got some fun ideas actually.
Yeah, we've got some really good. For those of you who've been listening to Nothing But Static, you'll know we had our friend Ronnie on recently, and the plan is we can reveal this now, can't we? I don't think it hurts.
Yeah, it's going to happen. We've not recorded it yet, but it will happen.
Yeah, so our friend Ronnie, who's done a couple of our main podcasts with us, is going to potentially record a hiatus sort of bonus episode of Steven University, not one of the main episodes where we talk about an episode of the show. We don't want to change the format of the main episodes, but when we are in sort of caught up hiatus land, we wanted to do one because Ronnie is Chris's friend who said that why would you do a podcast on Steven Universe when Adventure Time exists?
She's confirmed you're her friend as well now, Dan.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know if phrase necessarily quite like that, but she certainly, I think, feels at least the impression I've been given is that she feels Adventure Time is the better show. So I think it'll be fun to have her on. And she has commented about how you and I are Steven Universe fanboys, and I don't think she is. So I think it'll be interesting to
we could have her on and have a chat with her about like about Adventure Time versus Steven Universe and the pros and cons of each, because there are.
Yeah, speaking as well, because I thought then like about seeing if my friend Sam, who wrote a piece. Do you remember I saying I had a friend who wrote a piece about wrote like a university essay about Steven Universe, and it's what it does or doesn't do for gender equality.
Mm-hmm.
I think someone's cutting down a fucking tree or something outside, so apologies if you can hear that. So speaking of that, at the end, did you feel that they were trying to say something to people watching about gender? Where he's like, you can be a Steven, you can be a Nora, you can be whoever you want to be, you can change names. Do you think that? Do you think that was just like, him talking about this situation? Do you think there was kind of a nice learning point there for people? What do you think?
I think I didn't get that particular message from it. Because I got the impression that in that moment, Greg's just like, because I've got the quote up in front of me actually, because I had this transcript on another tab. He just says, we just had it down to, no, we just had it down to two names, Steven, if you were a boy, Steven if you were a boy, Nora if you were a girl, like, and he's like, magical destiny, well, I don't know about that, like, he's basically just, it's all very, just like, whatever, like, I don't think it's pushing a,
No, what's the bit where he says about changing names?
I don't, one second. Oh, here you go. Steven, she just wanted to be you to be you. I said, look at this bit. When you were a kid, when you have a kid, you have no idea who they're going to be. Even Garnet couldn't predict it. That was what was so exciting to your mum. A life is so full of many possibilities, and you would get to explore them for yourself. I mean, you could be a Steven or a Nora or anyone else. You could always change it, and you can always change your name. Hey, I did. I see. No, I think he's just saying there, like, there's no, like, I think he's just saying there's no set path. I don't think it's a message. I don't think it's necessarily a comment on gender equality, although the show has obviously made a very clear position on that previously anyway.
Well, yeah, and, like, you could make a, like, in a good way, I'm not Chris, I'm saying this is a positive. I like the notion that, there's, if someone was struggling with any kind of transgender related issues and they were watching this and they kind of heard that's a nice little message, I think, to get out there. Like,
I guess I don't know if that's necessarily what they were going for in this particular example, but yeah, I think if you want to see it that way, that's totally fine. I don't think that's necessarily, I think, no wrong answers sort of thing. Like, when I hear that, I think that's more Greg saying very clearly, there are so many possible paths. You get to choose them. You want to be Nora? Great, fine. Like, because there's so many paths and so many options. You're not on some weird destiny that that your mum laid out. Like, this is just.
But that is that message, then, isn't it? That is a message of be who you want to be.
Yeah, I suppose. You know what? Yeah, you know what? You've got me there. You're absolutely right. I saw it as more of a statement towards Steven's frame of mind, like as a counter to him being all panicky about his destiny. But absolutely, you're right. You could definitely look at that as a wider message about just living life. Not giving yourself strict guidelines to live within, and just doing you doing you, Chris. You doing you.
Yeah. There we go. You got any triv?
I don't know if you noticed, Chris, but the sword Stephen found was Samurai Jack's.
I didn't notice that, but I've been since well informed.
You've been reliably informed. So yeah, there's no actual explanation just to yet, by the way, about like why was Nora's tape disposed in some sort of rose quartz landfill, while the tape with the name Stephen was found in Lion. Like, did she know before that it was going to be a boy? Like, how? Like,
or did someone else put it in Lion? I mean, other people can get in Lion. That's been established. Bismuth was in there. Connie's been in there. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Maybe someone else put her there.
Yeah, that's very possible. But then that raises a whole heap of questions.
Yeah. That's very true.
And why would you not just keep the tape and give it to him rather than laying it like in line for him to find at a later date?
Yeah.
Apparently, a little bit of triv, Chris. The Nora thing is related to Rebecca Sugar's own situation, where her parents did almost name her Nora.
Oh, cool! Nice touch.
I thought so. The helmet that's over the tape is a Stalinheim. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's iconic for its use by the German military during both wars, but particularly this one is designed on the World War I model due to the bolts on either side.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. There's not a huge amount of truth for this one. This one is kind of cool, but it's like not a huge one. But the background sketches posted by Jane Back on Twitter show that a screenshot from Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door was used as a reference for the red book that's halfway stuck in the ground in the background of the landfill. So they just took reference images from other places to help build that landfill, and one of them was from Paper Mario, which is a great game. I like the Paper Mario games. Can't remember if I played that exact one, though. Might not have. So there you go. I think that's it.
There you go. Cool. There we go. What's the name of the next episode, my friend?
The next episode is called Dug Out.
Ooh. I don't know why I'm making an ooh noise. Have I met a character called Doug? I don't believe so. Have I?
Well, you'll find out.
Have I seen a Doug? I don't remember a Doug.
You don't remember
apart from obviously. I don't know. Have I met a Doug? No, he's called Andy. Genuine question. Yep. Is it a crossover? Is Skeeter Green Diamond?
or depending on your eyesight, Blue Diamond.
Was he blue or green?
This is the problem. There's a lot of debate about Skeeter's colour.
Oh, wow.
I've seen it many a time where he's sort of like, he's some sort of, he's, how else to describe it?
He's like the dress, you see.
He's a little bit like the dress. I mean, I think he's green, but there are also shots where he looks kind of blue, so it's hard to...
What colour did you think the dress was?
Can't remember what the options even were, Chris.
It was blue and black, or white and gold.
I feel like I saw it as blue and black.
Yeah, I saw it as white and gold.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's interesting that we thought different things.
There you go. There you go. Cool. Okay.
One last little thing can I touch upon before we leave? So do you remember how we have a Discord, but I don't know how to use it because I'm an old man. I don't understand these fancy new fandangled things these kids are using these days. Well, it came alive a bit today because we mentioned it in an episode that went up last night. So I want to give a shout out to the people who've been chatting on it today. So AD1995, Slaughter Round, and Dr. Manfred Lurker, who were all having a little chat on there earlier today with me.
Oh, that's nice.
And I asked if anyone had anything to add to this, to the podcast. I was like, we're recording one today. Has anyone got anything to say? And I saw everyone was typing for about a minute, and then only one person actually sent whatever they were typing, which was Slaughter Round, who put and I can't wait to read you this sentence, Chris, because you're going to enjoy this. So just so you know, are you ready? Yeah.
Yeah.
My crack ship is still Dan X Ronnie, so shout out to Danny, I guess.
His what ship?
Crack ship. So I looked this up because, again, grumpy old man doesn't know the slang the kids are using these days. Feeling my age every minute of every day. A crack ship is a ship that is highly ridiculous, bizarre, disturbing, and or unlikely to ever become canon. The characters have no chemistry, never interact.
Draco and Hermione?
What's that, sorry?
Like Draco and Hermione.
Yeah, the characters don't have any chemistry, never interact, and are sometimes different species, or one is an inanimate object, etc.
Well, I don't know why you didn't bring that up earlier when we were promoting that Ronnie's coming onto this podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. It only occurred to me right just then. But isn't that hilarious?
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's cool. So, thank you for checking out the Discord.
Yeah,
I don't even know what it is.
What I'm going to try and do, I don't know how it works. I don't know if it's something we put up a link to. Does it invite only? Do you have to be a patron? Can you just get to it? Do you just log into Discord and search Nothing But Static and you'd find it and add to it? I don't know how it works. But what I'm going to say right now is between the moment we're recording this, which where are we? We're in the middle of May, 16th of May. By the 11th of June, which is when this goes up, I vow to have figured out how Discord works, and I'll put the information in the description, and like you guys can join it. I can't always promise I'll be interacting in there, but there's a little, not a huge amount of conversation there today, but a fair bit, like a reasonable amount of people talking.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, I can't remember what else we talked about. Oh yeah, people were asking about sponsorship and stuff. So yeah,
how to get it?
No, how it works. Now we've got it. But cool. I want to clarify to those of you who are asking, and I don't know like the exact ins and outs of like. It's always really interesting with the sponsorship thing because people now assume that we're making thousands because we have a sponsor. I can assure you, it does not work that way. It is very much based on how successful the campaign is.
Yeah. So please, if you'd like us to make not thousands, but anything, then please click on that and please click on.
So yeah, sponsor is Audible, audibletrial.com/nothingbutstatic if you wish to join up to Audible for a free 30-day trial with an audiobook of your choosing that you get to keep forever.
And obviously that was just a joke. It would be undignified to give details of the sponsorship, but we do really appreciate them sponsoring us, and it is. I've been using it, and it's really cool. And like I think that it's so easy to just find something to listen to, and we used it bizarrely. Like a friend and I were traveling to Newcastle for work, used it to listen to 4 episodes of One Foot in the Grave, the classic British sitcom from the 90s that had been back in the 90s, done on audio form.
Oh, so, how does the audio version work? Do they describe the visual elements, or
no? They just do lines like instead of like you seeing, I don't know, like they're stuck in a traffic jam at one point. So instead of the visual gag of you like just seeing like a fly or whatever they're talking about, he says, "Oh, look at that fly!" That you know what I mean. So no one goes, "Victor is now walking to the park." They just use background noise and stuff like that to conjure up the environment. It does help if it's a show you've seen. I think I was listening to episodes I'd seen as a kid, so I was able to picture them a bit more clearly. But what I'm saying is it's worth having a look because there's more than just books on there.
Oh, that's cool. I know that some podcasts put their archive up as audiobooks in the end.
That's cool.
I don't know which ones, but I know that historically has happened. I think Gervais did it, didn't Gervais? Doesn't Gervais have his original run
Possibly,
podcast with Carl Perkins up as an audiobook on Audible?
Possibly.
Yeah, I'd have to double check that. But feel free to go get a free book. Basically, any book you've been thinking about reading, just go to that link and you can get the audiobook version for free. So yeah, it's audibletrial.com/nothingbutstatic. Go get a free book.
I think it's a nice alternative to, like you may, like I don't know about anyone else, but I listen to like, I don't know, on rotation, like 7 to 10 podcasts, and some days they're just days where no one's, I've caught up, no one's released anything new, and so you there's no podcast to listen to, and there may be particularly long journey, or maybe like on your way home or to or from work, where you listen to podcasts, and if none are available, I think Audible, especially when they've got books that are read by the authors themselves, Audible gives you a good equivalent to a podcast.
100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. And to close us out, Chris. I mean, this is just a great theme tune, isn't it?
It's a great theme tune.
So, to the sounds of Doug's theme tune, which I'm sure we don't legally have the right to use, we'll see you guys. Oh yeah, I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll speak to you next week for Doug Out. Get it?